Soqotra, also spelled Socotra, is an island and a small archipelago of 4 islands in the Arabian Sea. Soqotra is part of Yemen. It had long been a part of the Aden Governorate. In 2004 it became attached to the Hadhramaut Governorate, which is much closer to the island than Aden. In 2013, the archipelago became its own governorate. The island of Soqotra is about 95% of the land mass of the archipelago. It lies some 240 kilometers east of the Horn of Africa and 380 kilometers south of the Arabian Peninsula. The island is very isolated and a third of its plant life is found nowhere else on the planet. It has been described as the most alien-looking place on Earth. The island measures 132 kilometers in length and 49.7 kilometers in width. Etymology. In the notes to his translation of the Periplus of the Erythraean Sea, W. B. Huntingford remarks that the name Soqotra is not Greek in origin, but from the Sanskrit dvipa sukadara. Another posited origin of the name is the Arabic suq meaning market and kotra meaning dripping frankincense. History. There was initially an old urn culture in Soqotra. Old urn stone tools were found in the area around Hadhramaut by V.A. Dukov, a member of the Russian complex expedition in 2008. Soqotra appears as Dioskuredu in the Periplus of the Erythraean Sea, a 1st century AD Greek navigation aid. A recent discovery of texts in several languages, including a wooden tablet in Palmyrene dated to the 3rd century AD, indicate the diverse origins of those who used Soqotra as a trading base in antiquity. In 2001, a group of Belgian speleologists of the Soqotra Karst project investigated a cave on the island Soqotra. They came across a large number of inscriptions, drawings and archaeological objects. Further investigation showed that these had been left by sailors who visited the island between the 1st century BC and the 6th century AD. Most of the texts are written in the Indian Brahmi script, but there are also inscriptions in South Arabian Ethiopic, Greek, Palmyrene and Bactrian scripts and languages. This corpus of nearly 250 texts and drawings thus constitutes one of the main sources for the investigation of Indian Ocean trade networks in that time period. A local tradition holds that the inhabitants were converted to Christianity by Thomas the Apostle in AD 52. In the 10th century, the Arab geographer Abu Muhammad al-Hasan al-Hamdani stated that in his time most of the inhabitants were Christians. Soqotra is also mentioned in the travels of Marco Polo. Marco Polo did not pass anywhere near the island but recorded a report that the inhabitants are baptized Christians and have an archbishop who, it is further explained, has nothing to do with the Pope in Rome, but is subject to an archbishop who lives at Baghdad. Quote, they were Nestorians but also practiced ancient magic rituals despite the warnings of their archbishop. In 1737, Captain de la Garde Jazir, commander of a French naval expedition to Mocha, was surprised to find Christian tribes living in the interior of Soqotra during a 5-week stopover on the island. He reported in a letter home that the tribesmen, due to lack of missionaries, had only retained a faint knowledge of Christianity. In 1507, a Portuguese fleet commanded by Tristão da Cunha with Afonso de Albuquerque landed at the then capital of Suq and captured the port after a stiff battle. Their objective was to set a base in a strategic place on the route to India, and to liberate the presumed friendly Christians from Islamic rule. Tomás Fernandes started to build a fortress at Suq, the Forte de São Miguel de Socotra. However, the infertility of the land led to famine and sickness in the garrison. Moreover, the lack of a proper harbour for wintering led to the loss of many moored Portuguese ships, the most important of which was the Santo Antonio galleon under the command of Captain Manuel Paes da Veiga. Thus the Portuguese abandoned the island 4 years later, as it was not advantageous as a base. The islands passed under the control of the Mahra Sultans in 1511, and its inhabitants were completely Islamized during the rule. Relations with Great Britain. In 1834, the East India Company, in the expectation that the Mahra Sultan of Kishan and Soqotra, who resided at Kishan on the mainland, would accept an offer to sell the island, stationed a garrison on Soqotra. However, faced with the unexpected firm refusal of the Sultan to sell, as well as the lack of good anchorages for a coaling station to be used by the new steamship line being put into service on the Suez-Bombay route, the British left in 1835. After the capture of Aden in 1839, the British lost all interest in acquiring Soqotra. In January 1876, in exchange for a payment of $3,000 and a yearly subsidy, the Sultan pledged himself, his heirs and successors, never to cede, to sell, to mortgage, or otherwise give for occupation, save to the British government, the island of Soqotra or any of its dependencies. Additionally, he pledged to give assistance to any vessel, British or otherwise, that wrecked on the island and protect the crew, the passengers and the carguard, in exchange of a suitable reward. In April 1886, the British government, concerned about reports that the German Navy had been visiting various ports in the Red Sea and the Indian Ocean for the purpose of securing a naval base, decided to conclude a protectorate treaty with the Sultan in which he promised this time to refrain from entering into any correspondence, agreement, or treaty with any foreign nation or power, except with the knowledge and sanction of the British government, and give immediate notice to the British resident at Aden of any attempt by another power to interfere with Soqotra and its dependencies. Apart from those obligations, this preemptive protectorate treaty, designed above all to seal off Soqotra from competing colonial powers, left the Sultan in control of the island. In 1897, the P&O ship Aden sank after being wrecked on a reef near Soqotra, with the loss of 78 lives. Some of the cargo had been plundered by islanders. The Sultan was reminded of his obligations under the Agreement of 1876. In October 1967, in the wake of the departure of the British from Aden and southern Arabia, the Mahra Sultanate as well as the other states of the former Aden Protectorate were abolished. On the 30th of November of the same year, Soqotra became part of South Yemen. Since Yemeni unification in 1990, it has been part of the Republic of Yemen. Geography and climate. Soqotra is one of the most isolated landforms on Earth of continental origin. The archipelago was once part of the supercontinent of Gondwana and detached during the Miocene epoch, in the same set of rifting events that opened the Gulf of Aden to its northwest. The archipelago consists of the main island of Soqotra, the three smaller islands of Abd al-Quri, Samha and Asa, as well as small rock outcrops like Kal Firaun and Sabuni that are uninhabitable by humans but important for seabirds. The main island has three geographical terrains: the narrow coastal plains, a limestone plateau permeated with karstic caves, and the Hagwaya Mountains. The mountains rise to 1,503 meters. The island is about 125 kilometers long and 45 kilometers north to south. The climate of Socotra is classified in the Köppen climate classification as BWH and BSH, meaning a tropical desert climate and semi-desert climate with a mean annual temperature over 25 degrees Celsius or 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Yearly rainfall is light but is fairly spread throughout the year, due to orographic lift provided by the interior mountains, especially during the northeast monsoon from October to December. The highest inland areas can average as much as 800 mm per year and receive over 250 mm per month in November or December. The southwest monsoon season from July to September brings strong winds and high seas. For many centuries, the sailors of Gujarat called the maritime route near Soqotra as Soqotra Shine, meaning the Lion of Soqotra, that constantly roars, referring to the high seas near Soqotra. In an extremely unusual occurrence, the western side of Soqotra received more than 410 mm of rain from Cyclone Chapila in November 2015. Flora and fauna. Soqotra is considered the jewel of biodiversity in the Arabian Sea. In the 1990s, a team of United Nations biologists conducted a survey of the archipelago's flora and fauna. They counted nearly 700 endemic species found nowhere else on Earth. Only Hawaii, New Caledonia, and the Galapagos Islands have more impressive numbers. The long geological isolation of the Soqotra archipelago and its fierce heat and drought have combined to create a unique and spectacular endemic flora. Botanical field surveys led by the Center for Middle Eastern Plants indicate that 307 out of the 825 plant species on Soqotra are endemic, i.e., they are found nowhere else on Earth. The entire flora of the Soqotra archipelago has been assessed for the IUCN Red List, with 3 critically endangered and 27 endangered plant species recognized in 2004. One of the most striking of Socotra's plants is the dragon's blood tree, which is a strange-looking, umbrella-shaped tree. Its red sap was thought to be the dragon's blood of the ancients, sought after as a dye, and today used as paint and varnish. Also important in ancient times were Socotra's various endemic aloes, used medicinally and for cosmetics. Other endemic plants include the giant succulent tree Dorstenia gigas, the cucumber tree Dendrositzius socotraenus, the rare Soqotran pomegranate, Aloperia, and Boswellia socotrana. The island group also has a rich fauna, including several endemic species of birds, such as the Soqotra starling, the Soqotra sunbird, Soqotra bunting, Soqotra cisticola, Soqotra sparrow, Soqotra golden-winged grosbeak, and a species in a monotypic genus, the Soqotra warbler. Many of the bird species are endangered by predation by non-native feral cats. While there are no native amphibians, the reptiles species are over 90% endemic to Soqotra and include skinks, legless lizards, and one species of chameleon, Chameleomonagus. As with many isolated island systems, bats are the only mammals native to Soqotra. In contrast, the coral reefs of Soqotra are diverse, with many endemic species. Soqotra is also one of the homes of the butterfly Bicyclus eninana. Over 2,000 years of human settlement on the islands have slowly but continuously changed the environment, and according to Jonathan Kingdon, the animals and plants that remain represent a degraded fraction of what once existed. The Periplus of the Erythraean Sea says the island had crocodiles and large lizards, and the present reptilian fauna appears to be greatly reduced. Until a few centuries ago, there were rivers and wetlands on the island, greater stocks of the endemic trees, and abundant pasture. The Portuguese recorded the presence of water buffaloes in the early 17th century. Now there are only sand gullies, and many native plants only survive where there is greater moisture and protection from livestock. The remaining Soqotra fauna is greatly threatened by goats and other introduced species. UNESCO recognition. The island was recognized by the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization as a World Natural Heritage Site in July 2008. The European Union has supported such a move, calling on both UNESCO and International Organization of Protecting Environment to classify the island archipelago among the environmental heritages. Demographics. Most of the inhabitants are indigenous Soqotri people from Al-Mara tribe, who are of Southern Arabian descent from Al-Mara Governorate, and are said to be especially closely related with the Kara and Mara groups of Southern Arabia. There are also a small number of residents of Somali and Indian origin. In addition, the island is inhabited by various black African peoples, who are believed to be descendants of runaway slaves. The Semitic language Soqotri, spoken originally only in Soqotra by Al-Mara people, is related to such other modern South Arabian languages on the Arabian mainland as Meri, Hasusi, Bathari, Sheri, and Hobyo. Soqotri is also spoken by Al-Mara minority populations in the United Arab Emirates and Qatar and Kuwait. The majority of male residents on Soqotra are reported to be in the J** subclade of Y DNA haplogroup J. Several of the female lineages on the island, notably those in mtDNA haplogroup N, are found nowhere else on Earth. Almost all inhabitants of Soqotra, numbering nearly 50,000, live on the homonymous main island of the archipelago. The principal city, Hadhramaut, the second largest town, Kalansia, and Qaadiyab are all located on the north coast of the island of Soqotra. Only about 450 people live on Abd al-Quri and 100 on Sabha. The island of Darsa and the islets of the archipelago are uninhabited. The archipelago forms two districts of the Hadhramaut Governorate. The district of Hadhramaut, with a population of 32,285, and the district seat at Hadhramaut, consists of the eastern two-thirds of the main island of Soqotra. The district of Qalansia wa Abd al-Quri, with a population of 10,557, and the district seat at Qalansia, consists of the minor islands and the western third of the main island. Religion. The islanders followed indigenous religions until 52 AD, when, according to local beliefs, Thomas the Apostle was shipwrecked there on his way to evangelize India. He then supposedly constructed a church out of his ship's wreckage and baptized many Socotrans. After this, Christianity became the main religion of the island. They followed Nestorius, Catholic Archbishop of Constantinople, who was later excommunicated for heresies. The Socotrans remained loyal to his teachings and joined the Assyrian Church. During the 900s, Arab geographer Abu Muhammad al-Hasan al-Hamdani recorded during his visits that most of the islanders were Christian. Explorer Marco Polo wrote in his travelogue, "I give you my word that the people of this island are the most expert enchanters in the world. It is true that the Archbishop does not approve of these enchantments and rebukes them for the practice. But this has no effect, because they say that the forefathers did these things of old." Christianity in Soqotra went into decline when the Mara Sultanate took power in the 1500s and became mostly Muslim by the time the Portuguese arrived later that century. An 1884 edition of Nature of Science journal writes that the disappearance of Christian churches and monuments can be accounted for by Wahhabi excursion to the island in 1800. Today the only remnants of Christianity are some cross engravings from the 1st century AD, a few Christian tombs, and some church ruins. Economy. The primary occupations of the people of Socotra have traditionally been fishing, animal husbandry, and the cultivation of dates. Monsoons long made the archipelago inaccessible from June to September each year. However, in July 1999, a new airport opened Socotra to the outside world all year round. There is regular service to and from Aden and Sana'a. All scheduled commercial flights make a technical stop at Riyadh Airport. Socotra Airport is located about 12 kilometers west of the main city, Hadhramaut, and close to the third largest town in the archipelago, Qad. Diesel generators make electricity widely available in Socotra. A paved road runs along the north shore from Qad to Hadhramaut and then to the Dafamri area, and another paved road for the northern coast to the southern through the Dixam Plateau. The former capital is located to the east of Hadhramaut. A small Yemeni army barracks lies at the western end of Hadhramaut, and the former president of Yemen, Ali Abdullah Saleh, has a residence there. Some residents raise cattle and goats. The chief export products of the island are dates, ghee, tobacco, and fish. At the end of the 1990s, a United Nations development program was launched with the aim of providing a close survey of the island of Socotra. The project, called Socotra Governance and Biodiversity Project, have listed following goals from 2009: local governance support, development and implementation of mainstreaming tools, strengthening non-governmental organizations' advocacy, direction of biodiversity conservation benefits to the local people, support to the fisheries sector and training of professionals. In February 2014, The Economist magazine reported that Socotra was being considered as a possible site for the Yemeni jihadist rehabilitation program. Transport. Public transport on Socotra is limited to a few minibuses. Car hire usually means hiring a 4WD car with driver. Transport is a delicate matter on Socotra because, as much as modern transportation has its advantages, road construction has been considered detrimental to the island and its ecosystem. The most harm is being done by chemical pollution from road construction and road-provoked habitat fragmentation. For more eco-friendly alternatives, companies have started offering bicycle and enduro motorcycle tours on Socotra. The only port on Socotra is 5 kilometers east of Hadhramaut. Ships connect the port with the Yemeni coastal city of Al-Muchella. According to information from the ports, the journey takes 2 to 3 days and the service is used mostly for cargo. Yemenia and Felix Airways flew from Socotra Airport to Sana'a and Aden via Riyadh Airport. As of March 2015, due to ongoing civil war involving Saudi Arabia's Air Force, all flights to and from Socotra have been cancelled. Gallery, Hala Cave, other sites.